Hey guys, wanted to go ahead and just do a really quick review on the Sennheiser IE200, and to go from there, what I'm going to do is use different headphones as a point of reference because I realize it's really difficult to do a review because you can't hear what I hear, I can't hear what you hear, but maybe some of these headphones might be a point of reference for you, and we can kind of go from there. All right, so this is the Moondrop Blessing 2 stock, Etymotic ER2XR. This is the Truth Hexa, which recently came out, and obviously this is the Sennheiser IE200. Okay, really quickly, let's talk about bass. In terms of bass, this has more bass than this, and this. This has least bass compared to this, and these are about neck to neck. I always actually do feel the bass is pretty good on this. It's okay. I felt that with the Moondrop Blessing 2, I wish it had a little bit more bass. It just, I felt, actually, honestly, that's one of its biggest flaws. But it's obviously fixed with the Moondrop Blessing 2 Dusk, which I do recommend. However, I actually ended up with the stock one because in general, I thought it'd be good for critical editing because I wanted something more neutral. This, again, I just feel it has more bass than all these. However, this doesn't have overwhelming bass. It's actually, in my opinion, the perfect amount of bass because there is the Sennheiser IE300, which costs more than this, which has more bass, and I almost feel like that would be too much bass. So to kind of really quickly recap on the bass, this I felt was just like, to me, I was not happy with the bass with the Truth Hexa. I was not happy with the bass. These are okay for bass. This, I just wish it was like, I wish it had a little bit more, on here. And yeah, you could probably EQ it, but let's just talk about, for the sake of comparison, none of this is with EQ, just off the box. This sounds perfect in terms of bass. It's not the boom, boom, boom sort of bass. It's just kind of like the rumbling bass, but it's perfect and it's clean and it's punchy. I love it. So this has really good bass. In terms of treble, I actually feel like the treble on here is very muted. It's kind of a good thing and a bad thing, and I'll kind of elaborate. So what they've done is they've kind of made this a more versatile sort of headphone in the sense that you can listen to all sorts of music and nothing will ever sound piercing or harsh, in my opinion. Versus, I would say, with the Moondrop Blessing 2, you definitely get a lot more of that airiness and you get a lot more of that detail in female vocals. And if she sounds sibilant on the microphone, you're going to fucking hear it. You're going to hear that she's sibilant on the microphone, and that's not necessarily the fault of the headphone. It's just the headphone making you hear how it really truly sounds, versus this is going to muffle that down a little bit and make it sound like less sibilant. To an extent, I actually feel like these are similar in that regard. They have really similar treble, like I would say in general, that's why a lot of these, I would say reviewers kind of compare the Moondrop Blessing 2 to the Truth Hexa, because apparently the engineer who worked on this actually, he ended up working for this company, and he tuned them as similar as he could to the best of his capability. But no, I definitely do agree that in terms of treble and airiness, in terms of detail, you're going to get a lot of that from these headphones and this. All three of these are really good for that detail. What this does is it kind of tones that down, but as a result, it makes it more versatile for all sorts of music. There is never going to be really female vocals where it's going to sound really piercing, or you're not going to get something that's really like harsh in terms of sibilants and things like that, or very, in terms of sibilants. So I think this is the least sibilant out of these three. And that's actually why, in some ways, I disagree when some reviewers say that this headphone is V-shaped. Because when I think V-shaped, I'm thinking it's cranked up on the treble and it's cranked up on the bass. But it's not that, because the bass is actually not like a bass head on here. It's just the right amount. It's just not actually, there's even people say they want more, but I actually feel like it's the right amount of bass, but I feel like it's a little bit up. And in terms of like the treble, it's actually toned down a bit. I swear to God, even though it's not shown on a graph or anything like that, I feel that at the 8 kilohertz mark, it's probably dipped down a bit because it's a lot less sibilant. Okay. Let's talk about soundstage. So in terms of soundstage, so this is hard for me to explain because you can't hear what I hear, but there's a video that I look at as a point of reference. It's my soundstage test, but it's a song called Magnetic. It's a K-pop song. The guy walks in there, there's a bunch of Korean people in the room, and it's an auditorium. And he's walking, and there's all these cute, there's these cute Korean girls and guys and whatever walking around, and they're in an auditorium. With these, you just hear the footsteps. With these, you hear the whole auditorium, right? And with these feel like 2D. This is this is the worst for us. It feels 2D. Where's the rest of the room? It just feels like you cut off only a portion of the room. Where's the rest of the room? You know what I mean? This, you hear the whole room. This is you hear kind of like this. This is almost this is where the comparisons should be stopped here, because this is where the comparison stops between the Truth Hexa and the Moondrop Blessing 2. This has the whole room. You can hear the whole room. This is like average. It's like, oh, you hear, and this is like average, I would say. Like I could hear the small distance around the person versus with the Moondrop Blessing 2, I could hear the whole room. And this feels like 2D. You're like, oh, you can only hear this part of the room. Like, you know, it just feels like if this is a basketball court and you're playing basketball, like you could only hear like what's with these, like you only hear like that part of the basketball court. This, you hear the whole fucking basketball court. This is like kind of like this, and this is kind of similar to that, versus this is like the entire room. So you can't compare these two. This has way better soundstage in my opinion. Okay, let's talk about comfort. Okay, let's get down to the board. This has way more comfort than all these. So the ER2XR, they suck for comfort. Like I actually do not recommend them for comfort. What you want to do is you want to go ahead and buy yourself if you buy this, get the Final Audio tips, and it's going to have a red adapter. Put that on there, and when you do that, the comfort goes from like 2 to 9. In other words, you should absolutely get these. It vastly improves the comfort if you get these. Otherwise, it is a pain, and I can't. That's why I have a hard time recommending these, because these are terrible for comfort. The stock ear tips, and you'll notice I had the stock ear tips, and I'll explain why. The stock ear tips, they're comfortable for about 3 hours. After about 3 hours, it starts to get really uncomfortable. So why am I back to the stock ear tips? Well, if you want to get something that's actually comfortable, you want to get the SpinFits. I forgot which one it was. It's the CP145. I forgot what it was. It depends on your ear. However, what I've found is that in terms of sound and audio quality, maybe it's been a while because it's been a year and a half. I like the original ones. I went back to, like, one day, I think this happened like 3 months ago. I put on the original ones and I'm like, oh my God, they sound so much better. So I'm back to the originals, even though they're not as comfortable. This, actually, now we're going to talk about the Truth Hexas. These are actually not comfortable for me, but it might be comfortable for you. But the problem for me is that this right here actually pokes into my ear. So it's not an issue with ear tips. It's an issue with this. So when I'm eating or when I'm laughing, it actually pokes into my ear. And I actually find that's kind of a deal breaker. And it's unfortunate because these do actually sound pretty damn good for a $79 set of headphones. And I can see kind of where the hype is coming from. Like, the amount of detail you're getting with the treble and with the airiness and with female vocals you're getting with this from a $79 headphone is really, really good. And it just, and the mids on all four of these are really, really good. They're actually really, really good in general. But yeah, that's my overall 2 cents of all these headphones. Hopefully that gives you some kind of basis. And yeah, overall, I really do like these headphones because I think they're super comfortable. They're the most comfortable. The bass is perfect, actually more perfect than all these. The mids and vocals are perfect on these as well as they are on here, but its only drawback is the treble. But I think they actually toned it down. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. What they did was they made it so that when you listen to female vocals, when you like, there's no sibilance. It actually tones down the sibilance a lot. You know what I mean? But you don't get that, like, you know, sometimes you want that extra sort of, you want that sharpness sometimes, you know what I mean? It doesn't have that. But as I said, it kind of dulls it down, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. But overall, those are my 2 cents on this. So hopefully that was helpful, and we'll go from there. All right, you guys have a great one. All right, bye.